A World Cup winner, a global superstar, and now left out of Europe's biggest stage. Paul Pogba's exclusion from AS Monaco's Champions League squad isn't just football news. It's a brutal statement about power, trust, and modern football politics. This story matters right now because it exposes how quickly reputation can collapse in elite football, especially in Europe's top competitions. In early 2026, AS Monaco submitted their updated Champions League squad list, and Paul Pogba's name was missing. No injury announcement, no dramatic press conference, just silence followed by confirmation. For a player once central to football's global marketing machine, this omission speaks louder than any headline. From centerpiece to sidelined. Paul Pogba's journey back to top-level football was never supposed to end like this. When AS Monaco brought Pogba in after his long absence from competitive football, the move was sold as redemption, a return to League One, a homecoming of sorts. A club betting on pedigree, experience, and name recognition to push themselves deeper into Europe's elite conversation. But football is ruthless, and the Champions League is even more unforgiving. By the time Monaco finalized their Champions League squad, the decision had already been made behind closed doors. Pogba was not part of the plan. This wasn't about sentiment. This wasn't about history. This was about trust, and Monaco clearly didn't have enough of it. Supporters who defend the decision argue from a cold, pragmatic angle. Pogba had barely played at top intensity in years. His body had broken down repeatedly. His rhythm was inconsistent. Champions League football doesn't wait for nostalgia to catch up. But critics see something darker, football politics at work. They point to how Pogba was marketed heavily when he arrived, used in promotional material, praised in interviews, and spoken about as a leader. Yet when the most important list of the season was submitted, he was quietly dropped. To them, that's not just sporting logic, that's image management. And this is where the divide begins. Praise where it's due. Monaco's cold professionalism. Let's be fair, AS Monaco are not a charity. They are a club with ambitions, sponsors, and expectations. Champions League football is not about experiments, it's about results. From a purely sporting perspective, Monaco did what many elite clubs do but rarely admit publicly. They chose reliability over reputation. They chose players who were match fit, tactically embedded, and consistently available. That takes courage. It's easy to bow to star power. It's harder to look a global name in the eye and say, "You're not ready for this level." In that sense, Monaco acted like a serious European club, not a nostalgia project. In the USA and UK, where sports franchises often cut legendary players once performance drops, many fans understand this logic. The NFL, NBA, and Premier League have long normalized ruthless squad decisions. Pogba's exclusion fits that global trend. Sentiment doesn't win trophies. Monaco protected their Champions League campaign. They protected their manager. They protected their dressing room balance. From that angle, the club deserves credit. But let's call it what it is. Pogba's fall was mishandled. Now comes the uncomfortable truth. Paul Pogba didn't just wake up one day and forget how to play football. His decline wasn't sudden, it was prolonged, public, and poorly managed by almost everyone involved in his career. From Manchester United to Juventus, Pogba was often treated more like a political asset than a footballer. Managers changed, systems shifted, expectations contradicted reality. He was blamed for structural failures he didn't create, and protected when performances didn't justify it. By the time he arrived at Monaco, the damage was already deep. Fans who dislike football politics argued that Pogba became a symbol, used when convenient, discarded when risky. They ask hard questions. Why sign him at all if Champions League trust wasn't there? Why sell hope to fans if the club already doubted his readiness? Those are fair questions. If Pogba was never truly in Monaco's Champions League plans, then his signing was more about headlines than football. And that's where criticism lands squarely on the club's leadership. Pogba's responsibility. Talent alone is not enough. That said, Pogba is not blameless. Elite football does not reward potential forever. It rewards availability, discipline, and consistency. Pogba's career has been interrupted too often by injuries, setbacks, and long absences. Champions League nights demand sharpness that can't be negotiated. Supporters who have lost patience say this moment was inevitable. They argue that Pogba's lifestyle, stop-start rhythm, and inability to string together long runs of games made this predictable. In their eyes, the politics didn't end Pogba's Champions League chances. Reality did. In the UK especially, where football culture is unforgiving, fans are quick to move on. Past medals don't excuse present limitations. Pogba's name alone couldn't earn him a Champions League spot. That's the brutal truth of modern football. Why this hits harder than a transfer snub. Being left out of a league match is one thing. Being excluded from a Champions League squad is another. This decision locks Pogba out of Europe's biggest club competition for the season. No late redemption arc, no surprise comeback under the lights, no chance to rewrite the narrative on the grandest stage. For American audiences increasingly invested in the Champions League as global entertainment, this moment signals something clear. Pogba is no longer part of football's elite inner circle, and that's a psychological blow as much as a sporting one. If you appreciate fearless, fact-driven football stories that cut through the noise, make sure you're subscribed to Final Whistle Files. We don't sell fairy tales. We tell the truth as it is. Drop a comment with your take and stay locked in. The bigger picture. Football, power, and control. This story goes beyond Pogba and Monaco. It reflects how modern football treats players once their leverage disappears. When you're indispensable, the system bends for you. When you're uncertain, the system replaces you quietly. Fans who dislike football politics see Pogba's exclusion as another example of how clubs protect themselves first, narratives second, and players last. Fans who support the decision see it as professionalism finally winning over sentiment. Both sides are right, and that's what makes this story uncomfortable. In the USA and UK, where player power debates dominate sports discourse, Pogba's situation mirrors a wider reality. Once your availability drops, your influence evaporates. What comes next for Pogba? The question now isn't whether Pogba can play football, it's whether he still fits elite football's pace, structure, and expectations. Without Champions League exposure, his relevance shrinks. Without consistent minutes, his leverage fades further. Every missed opportunity tightens the margin for error. This is no longer about proving critics wrong, it's about proving usefulness. If Pogba rebuilds his fitness and contributes domestically, there may still be a path forward. But the era of automatic inclusion is over. That chapter has closed. If you appreciate fearless, fact-driven football stories that cut through the noise, make sure you're subscribed to Final Whistle Files. We don't sell fairy tales. We tell the truth as it is. Drop a comment with your take and stay locked in.